I used to take great pride in my appearance. At 64, I was still fit, healthy, and had a full head of hair that made people assume I was much younger. My name is Harold Thompson, a retired high school principal who spent his life teaching kids discipline, manners, and the value of respect. I thought I'd done the same for my own family. But life has a way of showing you what you've missed, even when you think you did everything right. My son, Daniel, was my only child. I raised him with love and values after my wife, Linda, passed away from cancer when Daniel was just 13. I played both roles, father and mother, and did everything I could to ensure he grew up strong and compassionate. Daniel was always a good kid, respectful and responsible. But as he got older and busier with his tech business, I noticed he started prioritizing convenience over character in his relationships. When he brought home Madison, I could see she was beautiful, charming, and incredibly polished, but something about her never sat right with me. It wasn't her appearance or even her success in her field. Madison was an interior designer with a keen eye and a sweet voice that never rose above a whisper. But under all that glitter, there was a layer of something cold, something performative. She always spoke with grace, but her eyes never smiled. I tried to ignore it, trusting Daniel's judgment. He loved her, and that was enough for me at the time. They got married 2 years after dating, in a lavish ceremony that Madison had meticulously planned. I helped cover most of the wedding expenses, proud to do it for my son. That's what parents do, after all. I even gave them the keys to my second house, fully paid off and nestled in the suburbs. I figured I'd downsize anyway, and what better gift than a roof over their heads? Life moved on. Daniel got busier. Madison settled into the house like a queen, and I stayed mostly out of their way. I'd visit once a week for dinner, always calling first. Madison would smile, serve the food, and ask me polite questions. But the warmth was never there. It was as if every conversation was scripted, and the moment Daniel stepped out of the room, the air grew cold. Things took a turn when I started losing my hair. It happened slowly at first, a few extra strands on my pillow, then clumps in the shower. I ignored it, thinking it was just stress. But within months, the hairline receded aggressively, and soon I was staring at a nearly bald version of myself in the mirror. I laughed it off, bought a few hats, and accepted it. Age catches up with everyone eventually. One Saturday, I went to their house earlier than planned. I wanted to surprise Daniel with an antique compass I'd found at a yard sale, something he loved collecting. I walked in through the side gate into the backyard, where I heard voices. Madison was laughing with 2 of her friends. They didn't hear me. I was behind the shrubs, and their laughter carried in the breeze. "Oh my God, you should have seen him," Madison cackled. "He came in last week wearing this ridiculous fedora to hide the bald patch. I mean, come on, own it already." The other woman giggled. "Wait, who are you talking about?" "My father-in-law, Harold. He used to be kinda dashing for an old man, I'll admit. But now? He looks like Mr. Clean's retired cousin. Bald, stiff, and still trying to act like he matters. Poor guy doesn't even realize he's become invisible." I stood frozen. The blood drained from my face, and my heart sank lower than I thought possible. The women laughed again, and Madison's voice rose with a smug twist. "I keep telling Daniel to talk to him about selling that fishing cabin he's clinging to. It's worth a fortune. But no, he's emotionally attached or something. These old men and their sentimental garbage. He should just sign it over to us. What does he even need it for anymore?" The conversation turned to cocktails and spa plans, but I'd heard enough. I walked back the way I came, hands trembling, compass forgotten in my pocket. That night, I sat in my living room in silence, staring at the framed wedding photo of Daniel and Madison on my mantel. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Her words haunted me, not because they were cruel, but because they stripped away the illusion I'd held on to. I had welcomed a snake into the family, and I had paid for the pleasure. Over the next few days, I thought hard about what to do. I couldn't confront Madison without exposing how I overheard her. That would only create drama, and Daniel might defend her. But I also couldn't pretend everything was fine. I decided to watch and wait, quietly, like a chess player studying the board before making his move. I started spending more time with Daniel alone. We went fishing, grabbed coffee, even worked on a few home repairs together. In those moments, I began to see what I'd missed. Daniel was exhausted. He smiled, but there was a sadness in his eyes. He mentioned how Madison had become obsessed with social appearances, how she cared more about likes on Instagram than moments at home. He joked about it, but I could tell it weighed on him. One evening, we sat in my garage fixing an old radio. He paused, wiping grease off his hands, and said, "Dad, do you ever feel like people don't really know you? Like they only see what they want to see?" I looked at him and nodded. "Every day, son. Especially when the people closest to you stop looking." He didn't say much after that. But that night, he stayed longer than usual. He even fell asleep on the couch, like he used to as a teenager. That was when I decided to take control, not with anger or confrontation, but with wisdom and patience. I updated my will. I didn't disinherit Daniel, but I placed all properties, including the fishing cabin and second home, into a living trust with very specific terms. The cabin was to go to Daniel only if he visited it once a year with me or his own children. The second home was placed in a provisionary clause. It would remain under Madison and Daniel's use, but never legally transfer until their 20th anniversary. If they divorced before that, the property would revert to me or my estate. I also decided to sell a few assets and donate a portion to local charities. Madison wouldn't see any of that. She called my memories sentimental garbage, and I was going to make sure the real value of my life, the relationships, the impact, the legacy would go where it mattered. Months passed. I continued playing the part of the old man with fading hair and quiet manners. Madison remained superficially pleasant, and Daniel continued to look more tired. One night, I invited them over for dinner. I cooked Linda's favorite stew and even wore my old fedora for laughs. Halfway through the meal, Daniel excused himself to take a call. Madison looked at me and smiled sweetly. "That was delicious, Harold. You always were good at homey little dishes." "Thank you," I said with a smile. "I suppose I had to learn when Linda passed. Feeding a growing boy alone teaches you a few tricks." She sipped her wine, then set the glass down. "You know, I was wondering about that cabin of yours. You're not getting any younger, and upkeep must be hard. Daniel and I were thinking maybe you could sign it over to us. We could renovate it into an Airbnb. You'd still be welcome anytime." I leaned back and looked at her for a moment. Then I chuckled. "You know what, Madison? You're right. I'm not getting any younger. And I've been thinking about that cabin a lot lately.